You didn't know September is National Bourbon Heritage Month.
Maybe also National Whiskey Month. We'll take it, right?
Sure.
Sure. Fox 5's Abbey Gibb is live at one of the most unique bars in town. Abby, tell us all about it.
Okay, so here's the first thing that I find so. Good morning to the two of you. Good morning to everyone at home. So National Bourbon Heritage Month. And you're like, what? Yes, it actually took an act of Congress back in 2007 to do this. And it's probably one of the only things that all of Congress can agree upon. And I'm here at the inn at Rancho Santa Fe, which is just absolutely gorgeous. And they have a very special kind of bourbon bar in which they craft their own bourbon. This is the Huntsman. This is one of the bars inside the inn. And we're going to be talking about the difference between bourbon and then just straight up whiskey. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't drink whiskey. And I thought whiskey was like vodka, that there was just different companies that made this one thing called whiskey. But my whiskey educator here is telling me that there is a whole facet of it. So please, sir, explain the different kinds of whiskey first off.
I always tell people to think about whiskey as a big banner, big banner with all the drop-down menus being all those countries of the world that might produce whiskey: Japan, the United States, Canada, Ireland, Scotland, of course.
Of course.
And the main difference in all of those whiskeys is what we call the mash bill. The mash bill is the starting product, kind of like a porridge that the distiller creates.
So it can be made from any kind of grain, and depending on the grain, that is what makes the different kinds of drinks. So what are these three right here?
If the key number, the magic number is 51%. If it's 51% or more corn starting the mash bill, it's bourbon.
Okay.
Bourbon, obviously, the characteristics are sweeter, a sweeter dimension. If it's 51% or more barley, it's Scotch. And if it's 51% or more rye, it's actually a rye whiskey. Now, the key thing there is, remember, Scotch can only be made in Scotland, and bourbon can only be made in America. And that's what we're celebrating today. We're celebrating all those hardworking families, the traditions, the recipes
that make this bourbon. And what is that drink
special.
Right there?
This is one of our most famous drinks here at the Huntsman. This is our house old-fashioned, which we make, of course, with our own Huntsman blend whiskey.
Yeah, let's go talk. By the way, you're going to make another drink. In the meantime, I am going to grab this drink. And my friend Jerome. Jerome, come hang out with me over here. So you run this whole shindig here, and we're talking about this very special barrel. Now, why is this so fancy? And this looks like straight-up moonshine, so explain this one to me.
So every year we travel to Kentucky and to Woodford Reserve in Versailles. For sales, as they say in Kentucky, and we make what we call the smallest batch of the small batch bourbons.
We make the smallest of the smallest batch of bourbon. Okay, what does that mean?
Well, we start out with 6 barrels and do a tasting and eliminate 2 barrels. Then out of the 4, we make another 6 possible batches, taste those, and then
you got to taste along the way. That sounds like a very hard job. Will you pour this and show me what it looks like?
Yes. So this is the selection for this year, which is barrel number 1 and 3, I think, and
and it's made, of course, here in the States. That's what makes it bourbon.
Absolutely. It's made in Kentucky. You know, the barrels, they start between 128 and 139 proof, so usually when you taste, you don't want to swallow that. But
yeah, okay.
So this is our selection for this year that we just selected last month. We will get the barrel in about 4 weeks, and please smell this. It's
here we go. This is going to wake me up in the morning. Forget the Starbucks coffee, Raul. Oh! That's strong.
It is strong.
Holy moly!
But
I'm not going to taste it, but this that'll wake you up.
This is the original barrel, the original 2 barrels, and this hasn't been blended down yet to about 98 proof. You know, obviously we don't want to serve anything over 98 proof in our bars because it's illegal.
Yeah, and we don't need the rubbing alcohol moonshine. Exactly. And what's this last drink that I can come and have here?
This is the famous Huntsman Manhattan, which we make with our personal selection bourbon that Jerome just described. And we also use the premium Antica vermouth, a few splashes of bitters. It's actually a very simple drink, but we stir it.
Yeah.
Rapid stirring, no more shaking. That's sort of old school.
That's old school. No shaking, just the stir, right? Exactly. Raul, do you like an old-fashioned or do you like a Manhattan? What's your drink of choice there, buddy?
Margarita with the pinky out.
I'll be honest, I'm new to the bourbon game. I'm not a big of either, but which one is more for like a beginner person learning about bourbon, learning about the whole whiskey?
Stuff that's gonna, you know, like ruin
the entry-level drink. Yeah. What's the entry-level drink, would you say?
I'd say a whiskey sour. We have a fresh whiskey sour that we do for people who aren't that familiar with bourbon
And what
whiskey
is
and
in
maybe
that?
like to tiptoe in softly.
What's in a whiskey sour?
Whiskey sour, we shake that one with fresh fruit and a little bit of egg white, and basically it's the bourbon really shines through. We also use the Huntsman bourbon for that one, and all of the drinks get the Luxardo cherries.
Yeah, you got to have a little bit of fruit, right? There you go.
Yeah.
No umbrella, though, Raul. Sorry, buddy.
No umbrella? It's okay. Hey, I'm not ashamed. I love this guy's voice, by the way. You should have a radio show, this guy.
Very nice, very nice.
Awesome. Have him
know.
say back to you in the
Soothing.
studio.
Can you say back to you, the studio?
Back to the studio.
I love this guy. I love this guy. And the hat and the bourbon.
That's good, I know.
He's got the whole package. I mean, this guy's awesome.